Hi there, I'm RazManager, and we're welcome to my first tutorial slash walkthrough of my RazManager RMS. So let's begin with talk a little bit. You may have seen another demo of this before, but let's repeat a little bit what this actually isn't. This is instead what we're looking at right now, how a typical RMS works like. You have something installed on a Windows PC, a program. Typically, it can be a tablet, it can be something else. Typically, a Windows PC, where you, as a race manager, control everything, and then you may share the same screen on a different set of monitors from on the site. You may have a special view for you as a race manager, but typically be one or two screens that can be shared and seen by the rest of the people that are at the site when the race happens. And then you typically also then connect your track through a track interface through the RMS to the RMS PC. And this, of course, works very well. It has been worked well since a few decades. And you just have fun, you have a race, nothing more than that. Nothing special, nothing wrong with that, of course. But it has its limitations when it comes to, let's say, bigger events, because information is only flowing in one direction. And if you want to do a little bit more detail analyzing or get a little bit more involved at big events, then this is maybe then a little bit limited. So let's look on what the RazManager RMS is instead. And of course, first, this looks like very complicated, but let's break it down. It's not as complicated as it seems. There will be a core RMS part, which I installed on a cloud server, and then as a race manager, you will use a client, the one we'll be looking at, and you can have several of those running, several race managers at the same time. Then you can have a tablet to walk around or manage a race if you want to do that. You can, of course, copy the same, share the same screen as you do with an RMS as well. But you can also have special screens, see them more like playlists on an airport or a fast food restaurant or something like that. You connect the track, you can do that to the same PC as well. You can do that, but you can also then, for example, have a specific device and you connect the track through that device to the RMS. And that can be sometimes better when you don't want to when you have the track on a different place where you actually try to manage the race from. But where this then mainly differs from other RMSs is that you can have people, for example, at the site doing analyzing in real time of the race, or you can have drivers using, for example, a mobile phone. You don't really have the time to look at the mobile phone on the screen there, but you maybe have an earpiece and you can get some audio cues and then understand what's going on. And you can then also, of course, then analyze race afterwards when you're not at the site. So this is a little bit different because, well, where do all these people then connect? Well, they don't necessarily, you can do that, but you don't necessarily need to connect to the same local area network that you will have as a race manager. And you typically don't want to do that if you have a RAS event with maybe 50, 60 drivers divided into teams. So you don't want to provide an internet connection to all these different teams. They will have their own connection. And this is why typically this model doesn't work that well where they're having mobile phones connected to a race manager because local network, because they still want to have their internet connection and you don't want to have 50 people going through your own interconnection out. And so okay, let's look at how that client actually look. We will focus on this part here where we're doing some real-time analysis of the race. but you're not the race manager. You are a team, someone looking at it. And we will also then a bit later look on how you actually do post-race analysis when you get home after the race, or you just a spectator. You're not even at the site at all, just interested in the race. So when you have downloaded the client and installed it, this is what you may see then. There are some events that maybe no other people have published and you can get access to. You can then, if you want to create your own club or place as a race organizer, you'll go into this part here. Uh, but to get any further here, well, we need to sign in. And there might be also races where you people have organized, but they're not published to anyone that anonymous. So you may need to create some account to get access to some events. So let's try to see how this works. I'll sign in as myself, if I can spell my name. And then I can see some of the clubs that I'm manager of, and I can also see a little bit more events which I have the permission to see. And if I then act as a race manager, well, if I go here and select one, I can see something in the menu here. For example, I can change the settings, which is mainly only to change the colors. But if I pick one of the clubs that I manage, then I can get a little bit more access to the more menus, but we'll not look at this time. But this is where we will work as a race manager. So let's sign out as myself here. Then I'm sort of back from the beginning, and let's demo how you actually create an account and get access to some of the events that you might want to see. So let's sign up then, not sign in, but sign up because I need a new account. Let's call this prototype demo. And we need a name. And we need a short name as well. This is needed on the account because we may want to act as a driver later on. So this is why this is required. And just a simple password. Sign up. Sure. Here we are. Now, what happened now is that this bottom here got enabled. So if the race organizer have been nice enough to give us a code, we can then take that code and then, for example, join that event as maybe a driver or in this case as a viewer. And with that code, I then happen to get access to one of an additional event. And in this case, this is actually the 24-hour race, which were held in 2025. So we'll use that as a demo. We will actually run two races, but this is one race that we'll look a bit later on. This is actually where we look at live race here. So let's pick the second one. Here we see the teams that were a part of that race, and here is then the leaderboard before the race. We can see that this is also then a team race because we have the teams and we have the drivers for the different teams as well, which will start the different stints. But before we actually start the race, let's pretend now that we are someone here that maybe are at the site or at home, but want to watch the race live. And we do want to have some audio as well. So let's go in here in settings. As we are a little bit anonymous here, we have not any of the teams that are actually pre-selected. That will happen otherwise. So let's, for example, pick international racing as we want to follow them. Let's look at the sound. Sound is turned on. We have selected a voice here called Davis. Yep, that's one I wanted. And so now we are all set up here for the race to start. Okay, so now the race starts, and what this isn't, I mean, this isn't a real race because Chrono was used at that race. So this is instead a race where I have been given access to the log file from that race, and I'm then reading that as it was real
You
input
have gained
instead from
3
that race.
positions.
So this will be hectic in the beginning here. Pay a bit more close attention to DSAA, which actually start good,
You have lost 1 position.
but then after a few lap actually drop down, and then they catch up level later on in the game. So let's see that.
You have gained 1 position.
So what we see that Audi here comes from international racing. So we can follow what's happening to them as well.
You set a new personal fastest lap, 11.45.
Yep. And let's see, on lap 4, I think it was, that the SCA lost a couple of positions. Yeah.
You are now in the lead.
Yep. And that gave international racing the lead in the race then. So this is, well, the screen you will see. It's a bit
You
turns
set a new
green
personal
when
fastest
the
lap,
race is on,
11.27.
but probably have some flags, something waving instead. And it'll also be the same screen which you
You
will
set a new
maybe,
personal fastest lap, 11.15.
maybe use on a mobile phone instead, and then it will look maybe something like this.
You set the new overall fastest lap, 11.03.
So let's then look at instead at the driver board, where I have
You set the new overall
this one
fastest
here.
lap,
We can
10.88.
customize things here on the driver board. I had the second half of those. Let's select all the drives instead. Yeah, then we'll get
11.09.
a tile here for each of the drivers in the race. 10 of those will be they try to be square, so they will be laid out this way. But as you saw, if we
11.53.
don't want to have all of those at the same time, you maybe want to show the first half of those. So it will then be, well, in this case
11.48.
4. And then we can also then pick, oops, sorry, we can pick
11.35.
individual drivers. Let's, for example, pick international racing and some more. For example, this one here.
11.21.
And oops, sorry. There we have those 2 races I picked. And
11.24.
as we then have a little bit more space on the screen here, we can show a little bit more data for these 2
11.56.
races here. We can show the last, I think it is 20 laps or so, and the times for those. And we can also
11.69.
then show, for example, on left here, we can show the gap which this team here has to
11.29.
other nearby teams. For example, they are a little bit behind Slot Racing Friends, and they are a little bit ahead of someone else, and they may have lost a position there. So
10.97.
these arrows that we're seeing here pointing a bit up and down, so we can see if we're actually getting closer or not to someone else. And we can see here, for example,
11.
at Natural Racing, yeah, they're first, they're a little above, and there are other teams then at the bottom here. We can also then, and this is
11.06.
maybe then show in this way, if we only pick international racing, yeah, we'll only have 1 team there, but this is actually then
11.03.
better when we view this on a mobile. We look something like this instead. Okay, we have
10.94.
some more information here. We may want to analyze the positions, so they will be updated as race continues
10.97.
and unfolds. We can see, for example, here, yeah, international racing, yeah, they started second, dropped down, then got in the lead. DSCA, yeah, they
11.09.
started in lead, got down to fourth, then a little bit back and forth, and then probably go a little bit better later on the race. And one
11.23.
way of looking at this is also then not only looking at the positions, but also looking at the gaps, because we don't see here, yeah, maybe maybe
11.3.
they have a big lead or not lead, are we gaining or not gaining? We cannot see that in this position chart. We need to go to the gaps instead, which will by default show the current leader. We
11.18.
can switch to, which happen to be international racing, we can switch to DSCA, which is the red one here, and then we can see the gap
You set a
between
new personal
their team
fastest lap,
and whoever
10.79.
are, well, from their perspective, and the gap is to other teams from their perspective.
11.27.
And we can see lap times as well. This becomes maybe a little bit hectic if we have a lot of teams here. So let's Okay, here we have a 24-hour race again, but now I'll switch off the live view and then look at another, let's say, version of the race where it actually is finished. So these are the final standings, DCS, DCCA one before international racing. So I backed out on the menu and then went into race one instead. And you can see here on the black background here that, yeah, the race is actually finished. So the driver board maybe not be that interesting on a finished race, but let's look on the analysis instead. Here we do have the positions. Yeah, international racing had a lead for a little while, then dropped down, but then improved, I think, during night, and then stayed in second position. And DSCA were in the lead for the most of the time. But how far were they really behind here? Well, we need to look at the gaps then instead. So this is from the perspective of the current leader, but let's switch to international racing instead, which is this brownish line here instead. So this are the gaps through the whole period of the race from their perspective to any other races here. We can exclude some of those that are a bit behind. We increase the it will increase the resolution a little bit. And skip that one as well. So we can see that while for the part of race, international racing were in the lead, then something then happened and they dropped down. The other teams gained on them. Then they would have trouble to keep up the pace with the leader here, but they were sort of steady pace throughout most of the race, and then maybe dropped down a little bit for the later part of the race here. If we click on lap times on heat analysis, we'll see, well, this is actually every lap time for every team during the whole 24 hours. So it's a bit messy. You can zoom in and if you want to do that. But let's instead try to do some analyzing of the different so-called stints. So if we select the team here, select international racing again, then we can see here that the whole race here has been divided into different stints, which began on different laps. And this is information I've got from Wayne from when which driver started respective stints. Not exact, but it's something like that. So we can then see how many laps those different stints were, the average time, how many D slots there were. In this case, that data is not actually available, just a simulation for me, which actually looking at the lap times and try to figure out that, yeah, the lap time between 15 and 20 seconds currently counts as a D slot. If this were a real race with a RazManager RMS connected to the real track, it will be so good to get the information directly from Oxygen and then start a new sprint as well. Sprint here, I've entered those manually. If I had actually had my real RMS connected to the real track, to the real race, then those steeds could be added automatically by adding a new stint for every pit stop. Drivers here have been signed manually. Maybe we can find a solution to get that automatically as well in the future. But here we see that in a list. We can also see that divided into how many laps we have for each of the drivers and also the duration of the different drivers along with how many minutes they have been driving for the whole race. This is actually much more interesting to look at maybe when we are looking at the live view of this, but this is the finished race. We can also now look at the lap times, and the lap times then are the different stints for the race. So we'll look a little bit closer at what these things are a little bit later on, but let's try to compare some of the different stints here. I want to show you some, I think, tactics that that team did during the race. So here we have 4 stints where we have Oscar, Geo, Oscar, and Geo. And we can compare how those drove. If we maybe then zoom in a little bit, and we can zoom in one step further, a little bit better. So when we do that, we can see that while the stints here for Oscar, this one and this one here, they're a little bit longer compared to the stints that they let you drive. And we can also see that Oscar were the lap times here a bit lower compared to yours. So we can see that, well, that's maybe the reason why they let Oscar drive a little bit longer than you, at least for this part of the race here. But we can see, for example, that, yeah, maybe Oscar got a little bit tired here, so they switched to you, and then you got a little bit better. And then they let Oscar run, and he got a little bit tired of that stint, and then you took over again. If we look at only one, sorry, we can select so we can see the lap times as well. Let's look at another view here as well. It'd be easy to see if I only select one of those, and we can then see a little bit extra line here, which shows the sort of average or moving average over the last 5 laps, which shows a little bit more better than the real pace over a period of time. We can also compare the different drivers in another view. This one view here, this shows the average lap time for the different stints that we have here. So we can see that Oscar, the red one here, maybe was a little bit better than the other team members. And we can see, well, they have a high average lap time here, but this lies a little bit. So let's try to understand why we have so high average lap time here for Wayne's first stint. So let's look at lap times, and we can see now here, if we look at that one, and I want to exclude the other stints as well. Maybe we should have a better way for doing that, but here we have it. And we can see that on lap 711, well, probably something happened, but this has not been probably a longer pit stop for a reason, and because this is a part of the stint, it counts towards the average lap time. So to a little bit fix that, let's go into stints, lap 7 and 11. And let's add another stint, 711, and let's pick Wayne for that one. Currently have a bug that doesn't update here, but if I switch back and forth, we can see that new stint here. And then if we look into drivers again, well, we can see the average lap time is a little bit better. And there are probably a few other errors like that to fix as well. But yeah, so don't pay too much attention right now because it's a little bit manual. So yeah, this is about it. We have some other tabs as well. Heat summary will have some sort of textual information summary of the race. We have another stream here, which is a little bit more interesting when the race is live, meaning this is not the real view here, but you sort of show that you can overlay something when you stream the event. So this will be live when you actually have the race going on, just like an ordinary motorsport broadcast. So this was that race. We can pick another one as well. So let's go back to the main menu, and I want to quickly add demo a few other events as well. So I just quickly log out and log in as myself. So then I have access to some more events. Let's pick this one here. This is from an event that took place, I think it was end of November, something like that. There were two races, 90-minute races, GT3 races at Paul Ricard. You may notice when I went in the first time, it may take a bit longer time to upload to get this page here. It takes a little bit longer, for example, for the 24-hour race, takes 30, 40 seconds so. But these short races, so that's they are cash. So we can go into the first race of those two. Yeah, we see that we had 16 teams there. If we go into heat analysis, we can see that, well, it takes a little bit of time for all the data to load. Take a few seconds in a race like this. For the 24-hour race, it takes actually several minutes to do that. So, so I'll need to look a little bit more on optimizing the performance there. The idea here is to have these two races, this for temporary period of time, to have them, can view the static view here as well, but also then run those races live so you can see how RazManager behaves when you see a race that's actually going on or simulating that it's actually going on. All right, I guess that's it for this presentation then. Good luck with testing things out. Hopefully my presentation will be much better next time when I practice more on this. Okay, thank you everyone.